The main way of dealing damage in Genshin Impact is combining different elements to create elemental reactions that deal more damage. But this mechanic is kind of complicated. But there is another way of dealing damage. This is called physical damage. Physical damage is often considered worse than the elemental damage, and it's not really a popular way to build most characters. But at the same time, working with all these elemental combos is so complicated, so I think I'm just going to use physical damage this time. Here are the rules. I can only use physical damage while attacking enemies. If I accidentally kill an enemy with elemental skill or burst, then I will spin the punishment wheel. Anytime I need to use an element for anything, I can use an element. I cannot fight any enemies in co-op. All characters are allowed, just as long as I don't use elemental damage with them. And no catalyst characters. Now let's see if you can beat Genshin Impact using only physical damage. Our first challenge actually begins after we obtain the power of Animo. After you collect it, it forces you to use your elemental skill and burst against the slimes. But there is a really easy way to get around this by just going away from the slimes and using your elemental skill and then using your burst against the statues of 7. After that, we can go and get our first character besides the Traveler, Amber. But I think nobody's going to be surprised when I say Amber's not going to be that useful. Amber can be useful with distracting enemies and dealing good pyro damage with her burst, but we're only allowed to do physical damage, and her normal attacks do nothing. Now we go to Mondstadt, get our Wind Glider, fight Dvalin, then go to the Knights of Favonius. Now that we're done with all that, we unlock... You know, I expected that. I just didn't want it to happen. But that's fine. It's okay. I'm not even mad. Noelle gets us pretty good physical damage, especially when paired with the Debate Club. We give Amber Slingshot and Lumen Harbinger of Dawn. Now we can go to 3 temples and clear them out. First we do Amber's temple, and all that was there were just some hilichurls. One thing I didn't expect to be a problem was shielded hilichurls. Bow characters can't really do anything against them, and the only way to break through their defenses are using charge attacks from a smart character or using a claymore character. Either way, we got through that domain in no time. Next we did Kaya's domain, where we mostly relied on Noelle and Lumen. But completing that domain gives us Kaya, who is one of the few characters who can viably be built physical. I suspect Kaya is going to be a very important character during this playthrough. Lastly, we did Lisa's domain, which we glided through while ignoring the entire domain. For completing that domain we get Lisa, who is absolutely useless character and can only be used for getting wishes. Now we have to get to AR10 to be able to continue the Archon quest. But I developed this new strategy for AR grinding, and I call it do everything you can before doing the Archon quest. But before I did that, I got a free 10 pull on Event Banner. I wonder what I'll get. This isn't particularly the best thing we could have gotten on this banner, but I'll take it. Claymore characters have naturally more powerful normal attacks. Sayu also has the roll for traversal. I'll think about this. Anyway, I'll spend the rest of the wishes we have. Razor was a great character to get on this banner. Or he would have been at least. Because his boss is the Electro Hypostasis. One of the few bosses in the game that requires using elemental damage. For that reason, we cannot ascend him past level 40. And I don't want to deal with using a level 40 Razor for the entire game. That's a bummer, because he is the only character in the game that has his ascension stat as physical damage. I decided I'm going to use Sayu and replace Amber. The roll was really the main thing that pushed it over the edge for me. Sorry Amber, you're just useless. But now it's time to enact my plan to do everything I can before actually doing the Archon quests. The things that we did were a lot of walking around and getting chests, Kaya's story quest, Amber's story quest, Lisa's story quest, a lot of ley lines, adventure handbook quests, and some animoculi. With this we get well past AR10 and we get a free 10 pull. Well, it's better than nothing. Polearm characters are probably some of the worst characters we could have gotten. They often have the weakest normal attacks. Not that all of them are bad, Xiao and Rosaria especially would be great, but we definitely could have gotten a lot better than Zhangling. But again, we could have gotten a Catalyst character. But it's not like we're gonna get a 4-star in these next few polls, right? I'm actually glad to put Layla on the squad. I know she's overall pretty weak and her only real use is her shield, but I like Layla a lot and I didn't get her on my main account. Also, now that we're at AR10, we get our free prototype Rancor. This weapon gives physical damage, and it went straight onto Kaya. My team lineup before going into Prologue Act 2 is Zhangling, Sayu, Layla, and Kaya. We meet Venti, who leads us to Windrise. Then we find an Eye of the Storm, which we quickly take down. Next we follow Venti into the Cathedral to steal the Holy Lyre. We escape to the Angel's Share, and we meet a character who would be great for this playthrough, but it's like we would ever get him. Next we go to the Fatui hideout and I heavily use Diluc. He has his best weapon and everything. I don't even have that. Next we have to get the 3 teardrop crystals required to repair the lyre. First we get the Ruin Guard out of the way because it has 70 physical resistance. Needless to say, this fight took a while. I couldn't even paralyze it because non-fully charged shots from bows don't paralyze it. I also wasn't using a bow character at this point, but it wouldn't have mattered either way. The other 2 teardrop crystals were a lot easier, and there were no problems. Next we go up to the top of Star Snatch Clip to call Dvalin. And that's the end of Act 2. Now we have to get to AR 18 to be able to continue to Act 3. Currently we're at AR 16, so this won't take long. First thing we do is go to Sumeru to get some Pala Lotuses for Layla. We spend a lot of time AR grinding in the Trial Grounds of Thunder. Every time you complete this domain you get 100 Adventure Rank experience, which makes it a great way to grind AR early. It becomes a lot less viable later on, but for early game it's really useful. In no time whatsoever, we are at AR 13 and we can continue on to Act 3. At the front of the path to Stormterror's lair, we run into our first Hydro Abyss Mage, which is by far the worst Abyss Mage. The Hydro Abyss Mage's shield can absorb physical damage really well. It makes fighting it a real nuisance. Also, its bubble attack might just be the most annoying move in the entire game. After that fight, Venti breaks the seal around Stormterror's lair and we go in. We have to activate 3 Light Actuators, which requires combat for one of them. The Pyro Abyss Mage paired with 2 Dendrosomatron Trolls would be a problem for non-gamers. We were able to clear it easily, and by easily I mean we beat it with literally no time left on the timer. Maybe I'm the non-gamer. Now we can fight Dvalin. During this fight I heavily use Venti because he has LG of the End, and I have Debate Club. Because of that, we were quickly able to take down Dvalin and save Mondstadt. As the reward, we get Barbara, who is useless as well. But we do also get another wish. I wonder who we'll get. Kujostar is a really good character to get. Having a bow character that's not useless is a really important thing to have, because some enemies will just be too far out of reach and we'll have to shoot them down. Kujostar will be an important character. Now that we're done in Mondstadt, we have to get to AR 23 to continue to the Liyue Archon quests. Here's where I bring back the do everything I can before actually starting the Archon quest strategy. We did... Kale was a very important character to get. We did Diluc story quest, Razor story quest, more ley lines, more Trial Grounds of Thunder, and Wolf of the North. And let me tell you, I did not expect Wolf of the North to be one of the most difficult enemies I've ever faced in Genshin Impact. This fight with only physical damage is even more difficult than Age Daha with no shields or healers. First off, you have to be a dash dodging god. Second off, if you play at range, then he'll use a dash move or a jump move. The former is basically undodgeable. Also, if you take too long during the first phase, he'll just enter as running around the arena mode. This doesn't actually transition to the second phase, it just leads to more attacks, which means you have to do that twice and waste even more time. Then when he transitions to his second phase, he has multiple attacks that I didn't even realize were hard to dodge. Zhongli having moment. He has the cryospheres falling from the sky and the howl. The howl only happens if you take a long time against the second phase. For his attack, you basically just have to switch to the character you want to die the most. But with a lot of patience and really good gameplay, you can beat him. Now we have to grind bosses so we can level our characters to level 50. Shade Bloom Terror Shroom is manageable, Cryo Regifine takes a while but isn't that hard, and Eon Blight Drake is hell. This thing had 70 physical resistance, and that number does not go down when it's paralyzed. This thing has around 45,000 HP, and I do about 50 every single attack. Oh great Hoyoverse above, what did I do to deserve this? Now everybody ascended past Ascension Phase 2. We don't talk about Sayu. We have to do the Ascension Domain, which is an interesting problem. All the enemies in this domain except for one are able to be taken out with physical damage, even though some of them are kind of annoying. But the Electro Hypostasis is an interesting one. In order to knock it down, you have to use elemental damage against the 3 prisms at the end. There's no way around this, so the Ascension Domains are the only times that you have to use elemental damage. This domain might have taken a while, but it wasn't too hard. But just you wait for the AR-35 Ascension Domain. After this we get Yunjin, and then soon after we get another Yunjin. I said that now is about a good time to start the Liyue Archon questline. The team right now is Kale, Sayu, Layla, and Kaya. We watch as Dwayne Johnson dies, and now we have to inform all the Adepti about his death. We first visit Mooncarver and clear out the Millilith. Mooncarver's buff made it so you get your burst faster, which is absolutely useless for us. So thanks, Mooncarver! Next, we free this guy's brother from the Amber, and then we meet with Mountain Shaper. After that, we go to Cloud Retainer's domain, and we parkour our way through it, skipping the entire domain. Finally, we have to visit Zhao, but first we have to make him some food so he's in the mood. That requires us to get the ghost out of this guy's kitchen, which also means that we have to fight a Ruin Hunter. But honestly, the Ruin Hunter was a pushover. It has less physical resistance than the Ruin Guard, and also, I think it has less HP. And that's the end of Act 1. We meet Zhongli, who needs us to prepare for his own funeral. We need to go around collecting a bunch of stuff, but only 3 of these things require combat. Around the pot where you heat up the Noctilucous Jade, there are a bunch of Hilichurls. The Geosama Troll was annoying because of the towers it spawned. I couldn't easily knock the Hilichurls off the tower because I switched out Kale for Zhangling so I could heat up the pot. Next we have to get the Cleansing Bell from the Granny in her teapot. It's important to note how long battles are taking at this point. My artifacts and weapon choices aren't that great. The only one that I would say is good is Prototype Rancor on Kaya. The battles weren't tough, they were just long. Next we have to go to the Guizhong Ballista and fight some treasure hoarders. This specific point was the point where I realized that we are not strong. All of my characters except for Kale at the end of the battle were in red HP. But we finally gathered everything for Zhongli, and he takes us out to get some dinner, which was short-lived because soon after we get airlocked again. But we're already at AR 27, so let's just do a few rounds of the Trial Grounds of Thunder. Then we'll be fine. 25 times. That's how many times I had to do this domain to get to AR 28. I may have said it was fast, but I didn't say it was fun. But hey, at least we can do Act 3. We activate the Animo mechanism in the mountains with Sayu, and then fight the Millilith at Guizhong Ballista, which went...
That's against the rules. I'm sorry.
great! Once we're done there, we go straight to the Zhongli to sing to some flowers. The fight against the 3 flowers that I thought would be an easy drown fest ended up being terrible. I was able to get things in control soon enough. Now we have to go to the Golden House to fight Child. We can exploit Child's weakness here, range. If you play at range, this fight becomes a joke. In the 3rd phase, you just have to play to his 2nd weakness, speed. Child's pretty slow during his 3rd phase, and if you just attack him fast, there's going to be no way you lose. The only thing that was annoying was how long it took to beat him in the 1st and 2nd phase. My Kale is far from strong. After that we have to fight Osile, which I thought would be hell because I thought Madam Ping's buff only worked when you use elemental skills. That ended up being not the case, so this was an easy fight, as normal. Now that that's done, Liyue is over. The next thing we do is not AR grind. Instead, we do the Lantern Ride event. It was at this point where I really wanted to get a 5-star. More specifically Zhao. So I tried everything to get the most amount of Primo Gems that I could. After doing literally everything for the event besides the quests, the character that we decided to invite was Chongyun. I never ended up using him, but I knew somebody would probably be curious of who I got, so I'll just say it either way. When it finally came time to wish, what did we actually get? Nothing useful. After this, we got the ore required to get the physical damage bow compound bow. I managed to get enough primo gems to do one more pull, and at this point I had no idea what to do. I basically had just accepted that I probably wasn't going to get a 5-star anytime soon. So might as well just continue on with the AR grind. I guess Hoyoverse has blessed me this day. Xiao is 100% the best thing we got on this account. While I could have definitely continued without a 5-star and still probably would have beaten the challenge, without Xiao this challenge would have been a lot slower. I decided to replace Kaya as my main DPS and used Xiao as my main DPS and kept Kaya as a sub DPS. With us getting Xiao, that means it's finally time to retire Layla. We will not forget what she has contributed to this account. We will never forget her mediocrity, but at least she looked pretty. Honestly, the worst thing about getting Xiao is now we have to fight the Primo Geo Bishop without shields. There are those rare times where you can actually generate crystallized shields, but that rarely happens, so you just have to run for your life away from the laser. After grinding that, I have to do both Dainsleif quests, and I am dreading it. You guys might remember my troubles with Abyss Mages. Well, there are tons of Abyss Mages all over these quests. You want to know how many Abyss enemies I had to fight that had shields? 14. That's not a miscount. 14 Abyss enemies with shields. And most of the time, they were Hydro. 2 of these rooms stand out above the rest though. The one with the Ruin Hunter and the one with the Abyss Herald at the end. The one with the Ruin Hunter sweeped my entire team except for Xiao, who soloed it all by himself. The one with the Abyss Herald at the end took me 20 minutes to beat. Would you believe me if I told you this wasn't the worst Abyss enemy gauntlet in this playthrough? Either way, we're now at AR 30 and we can start Inazuma. The team at this point is Kale, Sayu, Xiao, and Kaya. First thing we have to do is the prologue quest, which involves us killing a bunch of people in a tournament and then killing some treasure hoarders. Now we can set sail for Inazuma. Also, I didn't know I could rain in the middle of this setting sail cutscene. We do the transport mission, which went a lot better than I thought it would. Next, we have to fight 3 treasure hoarders, which literally took 8 seconds. Now we have to break a person out of jail while fighting the Tenryou Commission. While some of the Tenryou Commission soldiers were a little bit annoying, none of them were that bad. With that, we're done with Act 1. But before continuing on to Act 2, I decided it was finally time to fight the Magu Kenki, for Sayu. She's been at level 40 for too long, and it's finally time to get her to level 60. After doing that, we can test out Sayu's new skills by fighting the Raiden Shogun. There's a pretty easy way to cheese this fight by just attacking at range with a bow character. Kale was really useful during this fight and we basically switched out to nobody. Now we have to go to join the resistance to stop the Vision Hunt decree. We met Underbaked's character number 1, who brings us to Underbaked's character number 2. After doing a few things at the resistance camp, we go to the front lines to fight some of the Tenryou Commission. None of them were that bad, which means that Act 2 is over. We start Act 3 straight away and go to Watatsumi Island to meet the Underbaked character number 3. We clear the Ronin around Watatsumi, which didn't go very well the second time. The 2 big boys were very tanky and could deal a lot of damage to my characters. But we did end up taking them out. We go to the 3 Electro Pillars and activate them with Kujo Sora. After activating them, an Electro Lava Trail appeals, and this one was tough. It's very bulky when it has its aura up, and in the rain it can inflict Electro Charge, one of my least favorite reactions in the game. We just had to wait for the rain to erode its aura, and then we could hit it for good damage. After the aura finally went away, we were finally able to do good damage. I have boundaries, and they have been crossed severely. After way too long, we finally took down the Electro Lava Troll. After that, Underbaked character number 1 dies, and we go to the Delusion Factory. The Delusion Factory seems a lot more intimidating than it actually is. Really all it is just an endurance run. Once you can get each floor to only 1 enemy, then there's really no losing for you. We meet Scaramouche, who drugs us, and then we get kidnapped by Yamiko. That's quite the unfortunate sequence of events. She forced us to go through some American Ninja Warrior, and then rob the Tenryou Commission. Kujo Sora realized that the Tenryou Commission were in dealings with Russia, and we go to fight the Tenryou Commission. Basically, this fight was just a slow and painful burn. Now we have to fight Senora Tenshukaku. Zhao turned this entire fight into a joke. Senora is very easy to telegraph, and with Zhao doing a lot of damage every hit, it was really easy to complete. Now that only leaves the Raiden Shogun. The tactic for phase 1 is still the same. Play at range with Kale until the buff is triggered. Once the buff is triggered, go ham with any character. Before long, this fight was over, and Inazuma is complete. The next goal is AR-35 so we can continue on to the Sumeru Archon quest line. That also requires us to beat the Chasm World quest and the next Dainsleif quest. The Chasm World quest just took a while, and the only difficulty was the Geo Bishop. It mowed through my team like it was nothing. The only way I was able to beat this fight was getting it stuck on something and then occasionally being able to hit it or spamming plunging attacks. The Dainsleif quest features probably the worst string of battles that I've ever gone through in Genshin Impact. You might be imagining what it is. Well, I'll just tell you. 1 Hydro Abyss Herald, 1 Electro Abyss Lector, 2 Hydro Abyss Mages, 3 Pyro Abyss Mages, 1 Electro Abyss Mage, and 1 Cryo Abyss Mage. This string of battles took 40 minutes! Not to mention that during some of the battles the Abyss Mages broke, so I had to restart. But when I completed that, I was so happy. And soon after we were AR-35, and we can start Sumeru. But before doing that, I decided to edit Diluc only. Seeing my channel growth, it's clear that that was a good choice. I'm just gonna sneak this in here. Thank you guys so much for my channel growth recently. Never in a million years did I think I could reach this far with my stupid ideas. I'm glad to see that some people actually do like my stupid ideas. And I will try to get you the best content I can. Anyway, back to the challenge. I didn't return to this challenge until the beginning of 3.5. At this point, I got Stellar Reunion and the post-patch Primo Gems. Well, that gives us a few wishes. I wonder what we'll get. Oh damn. Believe it or not, Dia is actually a pretty good character for us to get. Like I said earlier, Claymore characters have pretty strong normal attacks, and I won't have to deal with her absolutely garbage kit. May as well get started grinding for her. And hey, we still have a few more Primo Gems. Why don't we wish some more? Clearly the 5-star gods have blessed me on this day. After literally no time for debate, I decided to go for Diluc instead of Dia. Not only is he stronger, but he's also my favorite character. Now we can start Sumeru. The final team going into Sumeru is Diluc, Sayu, Zhao, and Kaya. First thing we do in Sumeru is pass out. That's a change of pace. We meet the character we abandoned, and then we go to clear a Withering Zone with Tainari. It's important to note that I didn't do the Ascension Domain because I didn't feel like grinding everybody's boss again. But that also led to battles being really easy. Next we get transported into the giant flower place that I don't know what it is. All that were in there were some hilly trolls and some fungi. Thank God the Abyss Herald at the end you don't have to kill. We quickly get transported back out of there, and then we can leave for Sumeru City. We want to find the Archon, but then we realize that she wields a catalyst, and we don't like those, so we quickly leave to go to Port Ormos. We meet with the man whose charge attack makes it so he deals dendro damage. Ew. And we buy the knowledge capsules from Dory, who we all know is the greatest damage dealer in all of Genshin Impact. Then we test the knowledge capsules that we bought from ourselves against some fungi. But standing here, I realize battles are getting way too easy. So I decided I'm going to do the Ascension Domain after clearing the Eremites from the dock. I won't actually be grinding the bosses, but I will be ascending my world level. I'm ready for this to make battles extremely difficult. Also, the Ascension Domain took absolutely forever and it was so annoying. Either way, that's Act 1 complete. Next is Act 2, which is the most boring quest, and it only has one instance of combat, so we're just going to skip to that. The fight against the Eremites didn't take that long and it wasn't hard. Now that act is complete, and now we have to do Act 3. Before we do Act 3, I try to get some wishes for the standard banner. I'm really close to getting a 5-star on that banner, and I would like for it to be a weapon and not a character. I have no intention of changing my team at this point, and something like Wolf's Gravestone or Primordial Jade Winged Spear would be great. So we ascended Dia, and that got us a free wish. Now we just need to hope that we get lucky. This was the second best thing to happen to our account. Needless to say, this weapon went straight onto Zhao. First thing we have to do in Act 3 is torment a woman until she gives in and tells us the information we need about the Samsara. But then,
The doctor.
decided to be a bitch, so now we have to flee from Sumeru City. While fleeing, we run into some Eremites. With Zhao's new Primordial Jade Winged Spear, we were able to quickly clear them out. Next we go to Party City, learn about Scaramouche's backstory, and then...
Skip. But when does this game get fucking good?
After that we go to Caravan Rebot and meet back up with Alhaitham. We go into the desert and then fight the Rift Hounds. They were bulky and corrosion dealt a lot of damage to us. I wouldn't say it was a hard fight per se, but I would say it was a very annoying fight. That's Act 3 complete. First fight we do in Act 4 is against the Radicals, which were just a bunch of Eremites. It was a slow battle, but Kaya was able to take them down in due time. Now I have to go to a mental hospital and trigger some Dendro Pillars. The fights there were nothing special. Next we have to go to the Big Pyramid and clear that domain. Every time I do this domain I always forget the answers to the puzzles. The enemies in there hit pretty hard, but our Zhao hits harder and out-hit them. But the Dendro Flying Fungus was really annoying because we couldn't easily hit it because we had no bow characters. Those things were annoying, but we were eventually able to knock them down and they were never able to fly back up again. Now the last quest we have to do is Act 5. First fight we do is against Ramon's group, and for this fight I decided to use a different character for most every fight. Zhao for the first 3, Sayu for the 4th, Kaya for the 5th, Diluc for the 6th, Zhao and Diluc for the 7th, Kaya and Sayu for the last 2. I did this just for a fun change of pace. But our run of easy battles is finally over when we go to Party City to fight the Fatui. You might be aware of that their elemental shields will not be able to be broken by our physical damage, and we'll just have to deal nerfed damage for the entire fight. Also, when they hit you, they deal so much damage. After a long chip fight, we were finally able to take down all the Fatui members. Then we have to shuffle through a lot of plot before we can actually do some more stuff. And by more stuff, I mean fight more frickin' Fatui members. Are you kidding me? The DS Foundry is filled with Fatui members, and they're so annoying. Particularly the Electro Hammer guy and the Cryo Gun guy. This domain in its entirety was so draining. It wasn't difficult because even when they got their shields, I was easily evading them and occasionally hitting them. And the enemies that didn't have shields like the Agent were beatdowns. Now we can go fight Scaramouche. This fight was kind of underwhelming, honestly. Scaramouche really couldn't do any damage to us, and he gave us multiple chances to hit him. Of course, we couldn't take down the robots, so we had to sacrifice Nahida to the one-shot move. After that, the floating pig thing was able to do the heavy lifting, and we finished him off with Diluc. Now there's only one last area to do, and it has some pretty annoying fights. First, we had to clear some Rift Hounds who were very bulky again, and dealt a lot of damage with corrosion. I feel like I'm getting a moment of deja vu. Then on the boat, we found an Electro Lawatral. Its Electro Aura took a while to take down, but once we were able to take it down, it was never able to get it back, and we finished off the fight how we finished off most in this challenge, from a charge attack with Kaya. With that, Sumeru is over, and for now, Genshin Impact using only physical damage is complete. Diluc, Sayu, Zhao, Kaya. These were the 4 characters that ended off the challenge, but we can't forget about the people who helped us along the way. Thank you to Kale, Layla, Kujosara, Zhangling, Noelle, and Lumen. I want to give an important thanks to Kaya and Sayu, who were there since we first got them and were never switched out once. The next challenge will be another solo challenge, Heizo only. But until that video comes out, I'll leave you with that.